Hey everybody, this is just a video version of a podcast that I did a couple weeks ago. So the same as the podcast, it is adult in nature. It's a bit sexual. So if you have children around, it's definitely not for the youngins. If you've never been fans of my stuff anyway, give you a second and then you can put together a mild sedative or throw a stick, something. That's what works in my family. I threw a stick like 6 hours ago. I haven't seen my kids. It's great. I love the sticks. People are attractive. It feels really, really good to be physical with someone else. Naked bodies feel great when they rub up against each other. Sex is great. That's how I began my first talk with my son about pornography. Because my parents had never had the talk with me, and because I discovered porn when I was 8 years old, I had always planned on being ahead of the ball on talking to my kids about sex, hoping to lay some groundwork before everything else got to them. However, quicker than you can say toe curling orgasm or barely legal, the culture of porn had hit our household. I discovered that my son had been sneaking one of our old iPhones that we let the kids use for games into his room and had been watching porn for hours each night for over a month. And I remember the pit in my stomach when I found out. No anger, no frustration, just a deep sadness that he'd already been exposed. Because I knew now that we had to do damage control instead of the preparation that we'd hoped for. So before sitting him down, I thought back over my 13 years of porn addiction. I thought of how it had affected my ability to see the world correctly. I remembered how it became difficult to see the women around me as people and not just body parts that I would place on a scale of acceptability. And I cringed when I remembered how, even though porn was never an issue again after I proposed to my wife, I had simply taken the porn mentality with me right into our marriage, and I attempted to make her the fulfillment of my fantasies. And I thought of my son, how he was now already entrenched in that battle for his mind. When I racked my brain as to how to approach the topic with him, because I wanted him to know that he wasn't in trouble. I wanted to convey to him that I'd been in this war before. I wanted him to know that I had seen battle and that he could always come to me with questions and thoughts and struggles and failures. And I didn't in any way want to minimize the seriousness of what porn can do to the brain's physiology, but I also didn't want him to walk around shrouded in guilt. And I wondered what inroad or approach would work best to begin this, what I hope to be an ongoing conversation. So I decided to start with what had impacted me the most and had helped sever any attraction to porn and broken sexuality. I've always hated lying. For me, one of the greatest insults someone could hurl at me would be to call me a liar. I've worked very hard to instill in our children the fact that it's always better to be honest, regardless of the cost, that no consequence and no outcome is worth becoming a liar over, that we must live true and honest lives, and porn is a lie. Here's what I mean. I believe that this world is not an accident. I believe humanity didn't just show up out of nowhere on this mortal coil. I believe that this world and all it contains were intended. We're not accidents. We are on purpose. And if that is true, then it follows that not only humanity in general is on purpose, but that means that gender is on purpose. That means that anatomy is on purpose. That means that the way in which genders interact with each other anatomically is on purpose as well. That means nerve endings and pleasure sensors are on purpose. And this line of thinking, this chain of connecting truths, brought me to this one major life-changing realization. If this physical life on this physical earth is on purpose and has meaning behind it, then it cannot be an accident that the areas of the body that provide sexual pleasure and gratification and intimacy are the exact same organs that create and form and gestate, produce, sustain every single human life. I remember the exact moment that fact first hit me. My mind was reeling. I'd never put two and two together to realize that pleasure and procreation, babies and bonding, love and responsibility, they're all fleshed out in the same parts of the human body. And to top it off, it hit me that the very moment that a man reaches climax, this moment that every guy is grasping for, that very moment, his body attempts to create another life. In fact, there's no way to make the male body do otherwise. It's so basic and unstoppable that humanity has had to invent barriers and pills that can come between or counteract what our biology is trying to do when it's left to its own devices. And I couldn't believe it. I suddenly saw every pornographic image that I'd ever taken in, and I realized it was all a lie. The people on the screen are lying, not only with their scripted words of enjoyment, but with their very bodies. Every scene acted out in every porn is a lie at its very core. Though their bodies are imitating intimacy, each moment's a lie. There is no intimacy. There's no relationship. There's no desire to conceive children. No hope that this one moment of pleasure will last past this one moment. And that's not even to mention the person sitting at home alone in the dark watching a screen, which is one steep layer farther away from truth. One more blatant lie. Don't get me wrong, it's not that the people involved don't want intimacy, because they do. Every human does. We long for intimacy and pleasure and gratification and love. We're made to, actually. The problem is that you can't achieve or receive any of those things by lying and play acting. That realization is what ended up cutting the ties of porn addiction in me. I do not want to be a liar, not ever. I want my words and my actions to be honest and true, especially in the most intimate of moments. So that's what I said to my son. I explained the years of inability to stop looking at porn. I told him how sexual attraction, when it's given over to lies, becomes a prison guard to the mind. In blunt detail, I told him about the double nature of sexuality, how it is robbed of its truest, most honest form when it is divorced from its entire purpose. You can't have the truest pleasure without being open to the procreation. You can't tear love away from responsibility. We need to be completely honest and true in our lives, in these bodies, and in our sexuality if we want to find the happiness we long for. Porn is a lie, but the truth can set you free. Have a good life. See you on the other side.